Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tatiana Show. It is Tuesday, some sort of day in February. I believe it's February 2nd, 2016, and I'm here with my cool cup that I just got from Liberty.me. I'm wearing all my Liberty.me swag, see? We're broadcasting this show to the Liberty.me audience on video and live, and then we always post it up onto Let's Talk Bitcoin, which is a wonderful network in case you're not familiar with it, but you probably are because you're listening to me there as well. Anyway, Josh Shigala from Voltoro, welcome to the show as my co-host. How's it going, bud?
It's gone awesome. It's slowly getting warmer here in Berlin, so it's fantastic, and London's feeling nice as well. So the European side is flowing, yeah, and lots of action in the Bitcoin space at the moment with the block size and all that stuff keeps on going.
Oh, well, I
But
can't wait to hear more about it because I totally
oh,
understand. Every single time we talk about it, I have such valuable, information to impart for everyone.
I know. Well, for the folks that are the first-time listeners, we try not to get too technical on this show. Where there's shows that are very technical, and we try to keep it real, down to the peeps that use the stuff instead of the peeps that develop it.
But I like explaining it to those people. I mean, I think the tech is interesting, but it's just not something that, people ask me, what do I think of the block size debate? I'm like, nothing. What do you want me to say about it?
Yeah.
Like, I don't have anything to say. By the way, I do have one thing to comment on. I really like your shirt. It's very decorative, very snazzy.
Thank you very much. Thanks. Yeah, a bit floral. Starting to. I want to push spring here.
Well,
Push
it's a
spring on.
manly floral, though. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise.
Thank you very much.
Very cool. So today we have an interesting guest coming on the show, Daniel from Dash. So I don't know if people are aware of Dash. I met the Dash team down in Mexico City for the Latin American Bitcoin Conference, which if people haven't gone to Latin American Bitcoin Conference, it's absolutely one of the best conferences, hands down, done, over with. I think the Latin people also know how to have a good time, so that's always good. And they're really good dancers. So anyway, Daniel really impressed me. He had a very cohesive way of explaining Dash, and it made me, I don't know, I understood what he was talking about, so that was a miracle. And I think that there's a lot of really compelling things about it, so we wanted to have him on the show. Thank you, Daniel, for joining us.
Hey Tatiana, thank you very much for having me. I'm very excited to be on the show and to, explain a little bit about what we're doing and why we're so excited about our project.
Very cool. So Josh, have you heard about Dash before?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm not the biggest fan of a lot of altcoins. A lot of them are just sort of these clones of Bitcoin, and they change some little thing in it, like a tiny little variable. But Dash it started off as Darkcoin, which really took on the concept of making true anonymity in a currency, which is super important because not only, a lot of people think, ooh, because of, nefarious reasons, it's got to be anonymous, but it's actually not true. In fact, some of the banks that I've talked to try and get accounts, have said, well, why don't you, start doing stuff with Bitcoin? They'd be like, no, it's not anonymous enough. Businesses that I've talked to have said, hey, why don't you accept Bitcoin? It's not anonymous enough. And why do they want anonymity? Is because you don't want your competitor to know how much you're sourcing your material for, or where you're sourcing your goods from. You might not want that every employee knows what every other employee is getting paid. You might not want to, there's all these use cases of, hey, privacy within a token, within a store of value is really, really important. And this goes to the point of fungibility. And this word, fungibility, the only time you hear it is in the Bitcoin circles. And what it basically means is that when you get money, it doesn't matter where it came from. It doesn't matter where this €20 or $20 note came from. It's worth $20. So it might have come from a robbery 3, 5, 10 hands ago, but now I got it. I don't care where it came from. It's a store of value. I got it for selling something, or I got it from change, from buying a Coke or whatever. And then that's really important, because if you have to track every single coin back to making sure, I can't access this $10 has changed because it came from a robbery 10 hands ago, then all economic activity ceases to, really slows down. You have to check where the coins came from, where the money came from. So it's really important, and that's when Dash came out and really started tackle or dark coins started tackling this concept of anonymity in cryptocurrencies. That my eyes really opened up, because it wasn't just another altcoin. It was something quite interesting, and a lot of really clever people behind it trying to do something good in moving cryptocurrency forward.
And Josh, let me say, like, you're making great points about how privacy it's really important just from a user perspective, right? Like the technology is going to keep evolving, and we want people to have some basic level of privacy where you don't want eventually them getting spammed with marketing. And we foresee a future where you could do blockchain analysis and determine spending habits, and then you're going to be marketing to some specific users, which is kind of what happened with email, right? Eventually spamming became an issue. So there's definitely a lot of reasons why privacy is important for freedom. We don't act the same way, we would normally act if we don't have our privacy. But beyond that, I think in Dash we've gone a little bit beyond in terms of our objectives, which is now, I think, is advancing digital currency in all the ways that are possible to really reach cryptocurrency's goal, which in our opinion is to create a true peer-to-peer economy and allow and empower people, which is it's the objective for the industry as a whole. Should be the objective for Bitcoin, is our objective too. But there's many ways we can actually get there, and there's many things or many improvements I think you could include into a cryptocurrency project that should allow to reach this goal of a true peer-to-peer economy. And in our case, beyond privacy, we've really focused on governance, and we have this really cool governance system in which all of our full nodes vote on potential projects, either to make decisions or even for the network to invest in a particular project. And that self-governance and self-funding aspect of Dash, I think it's probably the most interesting aspect of it to me at the moment. So a lot of people don't really know we've been doing these things, but it's been an awesome experiment so far. Like we have votes every month to discuss different topics and make decisions and get that social consensus. That I think it's really important beyond the mining consensus that you're gonna get from miners, which we also need. There's that social consensus of everyone that's behind the network as to, do we want to do this or what direction we want to take. So definitely privacy is important for us. I think governance is really important for us, self-funding to remain independent, and we have other features that are really cool, like instant transactions and other things. But I'm especially interested in how cryptocurrency networks are governed, and how you can actually coordinate a decentralized effort where everyone has a different opinion on things.
Can I interject with a quick question? So this almost seems a little bit political, right? And in America, we have this expression, democracy is two wolves and a sheep deciding what's for dinner. So hopefully you can get the illustration there. How do you know that the overall majority is still doing the right thing if it's based on majority rule?
Right, that's a great question. It's actually not a democracy. It's just a distributed decision-making tool, basically, because just taking a step back, in Dash, we have two main differences with the Bitcoin project currently, or two areas that are different. Um, some of the differences relate to user features, meaning they can get privacy, they can get instant transaction confirmations, and things like that, which are user-related features. But then another very important area of difference is that we have structural difference in the way the network incentives are designed. So basically, in Dash, not only miners get paid, off the block rewards, but the block rewards are shared in three areas, which is, 45% goes to mining, 45% goes to full nodes, and up to 10% goes to this governance system where people vote and decide, what things they want to support.
So I
But
guess
that,
it's what
go ahead.
Tatiana's saying is, in normal democracy, you're kind of forced to do what these few power elite have have managed to, rise to the top, and then what they say goes. Whereas in this distributed decision-making system, you're more voluntarily using the network. If you don't want it, if you don't like it, you can literally just go, well, I don't like the direction this is going, and change. And I think that's the difference. What do you think about that, Tatiana?
I think I'm still a little bit unclear, I guess, as to some of the mechanisms. Did we go over some of the mining stuff? Because I thought that that was also a little bit of a different model. Daniel had told me about how there's certain inability to be sustainable in the Bitcoin industry because of the mining incentives. Um, Maybe I'm
Yeah,
not explaining
yeah.
it correctly, but
Let me maybe finish just explaining how our model works, which is basically that we have incentive for full nodes, but you need to have a collateral, meaning each master node, which is how we call them, needs to have 1,000 dash collateral that's gonna validate a particular node. So that means that each of these master nodes are the operators are invested, and each of these master nodes are validated by 1,000 dash. So each of these master nodes get a vote. So everyone that is invested gets to vote on a social consensus of what the network should do. You're still going to have the mining side of things, right? That doesn't disappear, and miners will reach like the mining consensus of what's the latest client of the software they're going to be running. But what you were referring to is basically that in our case, since full nodes are paid, they are incentivized to be managed and to serve the network. As the network requirements go up, let's say we are planning to raise our block rewards to 2 megabytes. That's something that we voted on and the network approved. And it's going to take some time to do the development work, but eventually we'll do it. And then this means there'll be more bandwidth requirements, more processing requirements, so that the full nodes are going to need to raise the resources that they're using, and that's going to cost more money. But in a typical situation, that would lead to centralization, because as the cost to operate the nodes go up, then people that are voluntarily running them would be less incentivized to continue, and that would only leave like companies that have some special interest running them. In our case, since our full nodes are compensated just like miners, as we scale up, and as let's say the network requirements go up, they are getting the incentives and the resources they need from the block rewards to actually also increase the performance and the specifications of their nodes. So from that perspective, we believe that incentivizing full nodes and giving them resources to scale up, it's a better model. And that's probably what you were referring to.
Fantastic. And what about the boots on the ground? What about the spending this thing? What about shops that accept it? How's that going? How's the network effect of
Wait,
Dash happening?
how much is one dash worth anyway?
Oh, that's
Right now.
About $4.20, more or less at the
And
moment.
where did it start out? Well, obviously everybody starts out at zero, right?
Yeah, it started out at zero. Yeah, of course. But as far as this year, for example, we ended up last year at $3.40, and so over the course of the first month, more or less, it's gone from around 340 to 420 at the moment. So
it.
we're doing well this year so far.
And is that because more merchants are accepting it? What's the reason for the rise? Is it because development's moving forward? People are seeing the.
I would say that it is speculative in nature for the most part at this point in time. Our network is now 2 years old, and we're working on these long-term objectives. Of redesigning the way incentives work in a cryptocurrency, how it's governed. All this work that we put into the protocol and the network, okay, is quite recent. So I would say at this point in time, it's mostly people identifying a long-term opportunity, something they agree with, something they think is going in the right direction, and joining the network. We do have merchants. We have different merchants, betting sites, people that sell honey, VPN services, and different things like that. Of course, that's growing organically, and we make efforts to try to engage more business, more merchants, more people, and into our network. And we're especially making efforts to keep the network close to the users. So our goal is for people to be able to interact with the network directly without the need of having too many third-party services in the middle. So that's why we have like instant transaction confirmations that you cannot double spend against, and that's why we're working on this new technology we're calling Evolution, which is basically a social type wallet in which more mainstream type people can just create a wallet and interact directly with the network without the complexity of having to use the typical crypto addresses and things like that. So
So
we're
have
working
you
on.
guys stayed true to the anonymity of Darkcoin, of the roots?
Yeah, definitely. Privacy, it's still a very important part of our system, and we have a technology that we're calling Privacy Protect, which is basically allows any user on our network to have a private balance in their wallet, and just basically have untraceable transactions. But like I said, it's for us. It's just a basic part of what a cryptocurrency network should be. There's no reason to see it as some sort of nefarious or radical feature. For us, privacy is just part of a basic requirements of what people are going to need for peer-to-peer commerce. So definitely, we have a group of people that focuses on reaching out to activists or VPNs or privacy-oriented services that would want to accept Dash, and we still do that. And but we also have a focus in just trying to get the whole cryptocurrency movement closer to mainstream users, and there's different interests that people can have, but that's still a very important part of the project.
So who are some of your team members? Like how many developers do you guys have going and everything? I know you have like a wide network of users, but can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. This is a fully open source, decentralized project. So we have developers that actually contribute regularly and are part of the core team, and then we have developers that just contribute whenever they feel like, and they would, contribute a little bit to the project. So it's all really reputation based, and the core team is formed around a group of people that's, let's say, more dedicated full time to it. And we have Evan Doffill, who's the lead developer. We have Holger, who's another of our developers. We have Ajin. We have a lot of people that contribute on the technical side. And then I think one thing that really differentiates us is that we've made an effort that, even though this is a fully decentralized project, we have no office, everyone's in different places. We've tried to be structured, right? We're using tools that help us get organized as a team and act in a coordinated way. So we have a project manager. His name is Robert, out of Switzerland, and he's great. And then he really helped us, keep organized. And then we have lawyers, photographers, different people really that
So
do different things in the network.
I heard that the mining reward, or the reward that the blockchain pumps out, also pays these people, which is quite interesting because it's the first time a mathematical protocol is actually employing people to develop itself. It's kind of very meta.
Don't all kinds of projects do that though? Is that unusual?
Well,
I thought that all crypto projects kind of, or a lot of them pay their team in the currency that they are creating.
no, for instance, like Bitcoin, the only people that get paid are the miners from the blockchain. So this mathematical entity that's sort of perpetuating, self-perpetuating, doing its own thing, is actually paying miners to secure it. So it's the first time you have a mathematical thing paying humans to secure it. And Dash has taken that one step further. I think so, Daniel. Correct me if I'm wrong. That you guys vote as this distributed voting ledger, and who can get actually paid. Which wallets can get paid if they're doing good work, and if they start doing bad work, then people can say, "Oh, you guys, you're not getting paid anymore."
That's absolutely right, and it's quite interesting, and it's kind of like it creates this positive feedback loop, where we can create what's called blockchain contracting, and truly believe that's probably a first, in which our whole distributed network of nodes can vote on a particular contract that's going to run over a certain period of time, and partner with normal companies. A good example is we're partnering with Ira Miller, from Beginner, former CEO of Coinapult, and he's doing right now contracting work for the Dash network, where he gets paid directly from the blockchain without anyone's intervention. So it's not us on the team paying him from team money or anything like that. Directly from the blockchain, the contract gets paid every month directly to him, and he's doing like development work for us and helping Dash. He's a great supporter of the project. And what's cool about that is that we have to submit a public proposal. There's this forced transparency to the process, and there's a lot of debate each month, and people really voice their opinions in a very vocal way as to what they want to do. And in the end, you have this forced consensus. Within the month, we need to make a decision, and if the particular project reaches consensus and people agree to go into the contract, then it gets paid, which is what we did, for example, by hiring Beginner directly from the blockchain, which I think it was a pretty cool, innovative thing.
Wait,
Crazy.
what's beginner? Like DIG, like beginner, but with a D?
Exactly. That's the
What's the
name
what's
of.
the difference with that project? What's that about? I mean, we're not talking
Well,
about that, but I'm curious.
yeah, no, they are a software development firm that develops cryptocurrency tools for businesses. So they would develop backend tools for exchanges and things like that. Like you need matching engines, wallets, and different
Oh,
tools.
okay.
So they do programming work, and this is Ira's company. This is what he's doing now after after he sold Coinapool. So we're basically contracting with his company so that he can do development work for Dash. But what's interesting is that the process of going into that contract, where we have to first post a public proposal, and everyone on the network is going to vote, is going to debate, and eventually decide whether they want to fund this or not. And if the decision is that the network does want to do this work, then it gets paid directly from the blockchain to the contractor, which is what we're calling blockchain contracting. And that's, it's pretty cool. It creates this positive feedback loop, because then now the work that Ira is doing, it's creating value for the network. The value of the network goes up, and then we have more funds to fund more projects and try to, continue. So our network is kind of like this sentient thing that's really trying to, create network effects and promote itself.
That's crazy. You've got this protocol, this maths, this network, this robot. It's the first time a robot is becoming an employer
Do I
of
need to be
humans.
worried? I don't like that. I saw that Terminator 2 movie when I was little, and I was very, very afraid.
Yeah, but then I saw Terminator 3 and 4, and then I was like, oh yeah, that's
Fear
a joke.
dissipated.
Yeah, the fear
Yeah,
dissipated.
but in the end, it's really like a decentralized organization, right? Because there's people behind those votes, but the cool thing is that these people don't know each other. They're in different places around the world. Many of them don't even speak the same language. We have strong communities in Russia, China, obviously America. But then they don't even know who each other are, but they can all vote because they're cryptographically signing their votes, right? And we know that those votes are valid. So we don't need to know each other to be able to coordinate a decentralized project, which is why I think it's cool.
That's
Can
crazy. Sorry,
I,
Tatiana, go for it.
well, I was just wondering, when you have an open source project, and this is more of an overall question, how do you deal with regulation? Because if you don't have a central office somewhere, and
Mm-hmm.
yet, for example, you send your coins around the United States where they're just like, oh, I need to know everything everybody's doing right now. So how do you manage something like that, right? Like, what do you do with regulation if you're dealing with an open source project? How do you kind of overcome some of those challenges?
But it depends on what challenges you are referring to, right? Um, because it depends on what the challenge would be. If we're contracting with somebody, then the person that's getting paid has the burden of actually doing their proper tax returns and any sort of work that their legislation indicates they need to do. The money that comes from the blockchain is basically like mining rewards. So whatever applies to miners, like whatever process in a particular jurisdiction a miner needs to go through to like justify his mining rewards, is actually the same process anyone working for the Dash blockchain would need to go through.
The great thing
Well,
is that you can't put the network in prison for paying less than minimum wage.
But
You
you
know.
can take, somebody from there, right? I mean, if like somebody wanted to, they could say, "Oh, that Daniel guy, he went on the Tatiana show. Let's get him." Um, so I don't know. I mean, look at Valtoro has a thing on their page when you sign up that says if you're from Iran, Syria, North Korea, or New York State, you're not allowed to do anything. So is that because, Josh, is that because you guys are trading gold and Bitcoin, or what's the difference there? Are
Because
there
of the bit,
different
because of the
recommendations?
bit license, and because we're a centralized exchange, so we have full control of our database. But a network is a decentralized network, so you can't control what a decentralized network does. And if someone does work for Dash that's less than minimum wage, and the Dash networks then that's the person voluntarily doing the work, which it should be anyway in general life, but we have the state coming in and crushing you down as an employer if you're paying less than minimum wage. Um, So this net, yeah, and so I think the regulations are a really interesting question because, and that was the whole point Satoshi released, is the concept of a decentralized currency, or he didn't release the concept because this concept's been working on for a long time by many people, but he finally released the solution to this problem, and that's quite an interesting feat because you can't put a network in prison. It just doesn't work. It's null and void.
But you could discourage it by putting one of the people that kind of leads the project in there. I mean, if they wanted to, right?
Like a lead developer.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's nothing illegal about writing code. Um, you know what I mean? It's a different kettle of fish.
I'm not advocating for throwing anybody in prison, by the way, just to be clear. I guess I'm just a little bit mistrustful of the state that they do all sorts of things that are sort of out of nowhere. They decide, oh, this is threatening us. We're going to write a new law. We're going to kind of mess with people. And, oh, I just wrote code. Well, I mean, you could almost tie it a little bit to the Silk Road, right? I just made a website. I can't help it that people are selling drugs on there, which is obviously a little bit more of an extreme case where you can, but even that was kind of questionable,
But for
right?
instance, if someone in Sweden wrote the code that maybe makes a drop down. It's a generic code, it makes a drop down, and the person who developed the Silk Road used that little snippet of code because it was open source and threw it in there. Does that mean that guy in Sweden is now liable for this thing? No, of course not.
That's a really
Uh,
good way of explaining it, actually, because if you have an open source project and everybody is just contributing partially, you could probably put a couple people in, but you'd get a lot of pushback, hopefully. I mean, if people weren't too busy watching the Kardashians, they might notice and raise a ruckus. Um, do you guys have an issue where you can't, have Dash Coin somewhere, or no? I guess not, based on all this, right?
No, not really. I mean, I think what you're describing is more of a general issue for the industry for any cryptocurrency network, and not in particular with Dash, or there's nothing particular about Dash that would make it especially liable in any
Of
way.
course,
Um,
definitely. Yeah,
but this is an issue we deal with in cryptocurrency, which is a new thing. I mean, there's definitely a legal, void in terms of some specific things. But as far as contracting with people, like I said, what would apply, or the burden would be on the person on that's delivering the service. I mean, that's getting paid for from the blockchain directly. There's definitely no human intervention, so there's not another party. It's just like a miner. Like the miner just sets up hardware equipment, plugs it to the internet, and he's making money. So what do you do?
the evil capitalist network.
Right. So how do you report that mining income? I don't know. I guess it will vary from place to place. For example, I'm in Panama City, Panama, and here foreign income is free of tax. So I can mine or I can do anything I want, and it's perfectly legal because this is money coming from outside of the country in, and that's how our law works, right? So you could relocate if you want to be involved with something that's regulated in your jurisdiction. That's what a lot of people do. That's why a lot of people came here, like and go to other countries in reality.
Yeah,
They
that's why
relocate.
you had these massive brain drain of some of the smartest people and some of the most biggest entrepreneurs heading over to Panama or some of these other different places that lower their taxes, because people know, well, when you want to start a business, you have to bootstrap. It's very, very hard to bootstrap a business, and the last thing you want is a mafia coming and taking 30%. So you really can do a lot better as a startup in places where you're not taxed so much, and then broaden out from there and start setting up in countries that are. In terms of, hey, you know, a lot of people in Bitcoin are pushing that Bitcoin should be a lot more than currency. It should have smart contracts on top of it. It should have all these other things. Is Dash focusing on scripting, any sort of scripting stuff that's going on there?
Not really. Not currently. We just want to be a really, really good monetary medium. And like I said, there's two aspects to it. What are we trying to improve in that sense? Is, for example, being able to have instant transactions that are not or don't have a double spend possibility. We feel that's really going to help point of sale and face-to-face transactions where you would just want to pay for something and get out of there. And so we believe that was an area for improvement. Privacy is another area for improvement that was necessary, in our opinion, to make the network really practical for people to use as a peer-to-peer thing. So we're trying to focus on that. Right now, our next thing is ease of use, meaning just keep everything the same, just as decentralized, but try to come up with innovative ideas of, okay, how do I can really like introduce this to my mom or to my sister, which is kind of like the benchmark test I'm using. Like right now, I don't feel 100% comfortable that I would be able to get my mom to use our QT wallet. So there's definitely companies working on that, like Coinbase or things like that. But that introduces an element of centralization, which is you're replacing Visa with Coinbase, right? And then what we're trying to do is look for ways that people can easily interact directly with our payment network, right? And that's kind of the challenge right now. We're not 100%. We don't have 100% of the solution, but we're definitely working in that direction.
Can I ask you guys a question that's a little bit off topic? And I was just thinking about, it's not off topic, but is there a way to use Dash? You know, they're having these Bitcoin credit cards now. Can people use alternative currencies on those credit cards yet, or no? Or is it only Bitcoin? Because you know there's Shapeshift, right? And Shapeshift, Dash, you guys integrated with Shapeshift, right? You guys work together, like they help you switch around and stuff.
Yeah.
So is there a Shapeshift function available on any of these various credit cards that are going around that have it kind of tied to Bitcoin?
I'm not sure of one. I know that there's some really cool wallets that move around stuff. But yeah, I think Zapper is just Bitcoin, eCoin is just Bitcoin. Yeah, but I'm sure that's something that BizDev will get on over the time. And I think this is an interesting concept which comes up a lot, is what happens when all these different cryptocurrencies start interfacing. The concept of scarcity sort of disappears, not really per coin, but as the concept of decentralized ledgers. So you have, how many Dash coin there'll ever be made, and how many Bitcoins there'll ever be made, and how many Litecoins there'll ever be made, and it starts to not be 21 million, it starts to be 21 billion. And so this value loses. So that's an argument that people like Peter Schiff and stuff like that have brought up in the past. Yeah, I'd like to hear your take on that, Daniel.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of choice, right? Like freedom or the sovereign individual that people talk about, in the sense that I envision a future where there's going to be different networks and people are going to join these networks from because they like the consensus rules in terms of their particular trade. So let's say you have like Tatiana coin for musicians and artists, and they have certain consensus rules in which everyone gets supported in a particular way that's relevant for that industry, and then people get to pay directly to the artists, and it has some sort of a niche application that you join voluntarily. There's no reason why we would need a one network that would do it all. And in the end, these networks are going to trade against each other in a free market, and price is going to be determined by demand, and that's what's happening already. Like, we trade against the US dollar, we trade against Bitcoin, and the free market determines what's the right price or how valuable Dash is or not. So who can say that we're not bringing new people into the Bitcoin ecosystem? As these people come into the Dash network and they trade Dash for Bitcoin, or they use Shapeshift or any sort of service, they are participating of the cryptocurrency economy. I think all we have to do is drop the brands, we don't have to call it a Bitcoin for a second. It's just the cryptocurrency industry as a whole needs to grow, and the cryptocurrency industry as a whole needs to generate value for people. And I don't think it's going to be able to do that as a single network. I think you're going to have different smaller networks that cater to some specific niche, and then all those are going to come tied together, and Bitcoin could very well be the reserve currency that's giving value to all these smaller networks. Kind of like in the same way Apple stock would trade against the dollar, right? Like you could have decentralized companies or decentralized organizations like Dash trading against Bitcoin.
Interesting, very interesting. We've got a question here from Liberty.me watchers. Folks, if you're just listening to this offline, you can join us every week and listen to us live and ask our guest questions. So it's a really great way to really get in touch with some of these interesting guests. We have here a question that earlier we discussed how contracts were being paid out by the network. And he was asking why we're signing up for 3 months contracts in Dash as opposed to more of a fixed cost like USD. I understand we are trying to change the status quo, but baby steps first, he asks. I guess he's saying, why not make the network pay in a fixed USD?
I understand what he means. There's this whole debate. Like, we have this votes every month, and there's always this sort of debate. So he's going into the specifics of a particular contract. Should it be denominated in Dash? Should it be denominated in fiat? And who's going to take the market risk, right?
Well, in Dash, of course. Filthy fiat, we don't need it. We're stepping back. The whole point is to get away from this stuff. Either gold. Hey, contracted in gold. You can get the price off our API.
Yeah, so there's debates around that idea. I personally also believe it should be in Dash because, as people add value to the network and they're holding Dash, we create network effects, meaning our contractor who's going to be an expert in a particular area of cryptocurrency, it's going to now be a Dash holder. And some of our contractors actually hold their Dash, and they become advocates even after they've finished their work with us.
So I guess what he's saying, like, if you've got a contract for 3 months and you're working away, and all of a sudden the price drops, but you're getting the same amount of Dash coming out, then you're actually effectively getting paid less. But it could go the other way as well, right? It could go up, and so you get more. So there is a bit of a gamble there, but and I guess the thing is that if you've got a family to feed, that might not be the best thing to do, is have that gamble. So I understand that concern, but maybe
it's going to be, in reality, it's going to be on a case-by-case basis, right? Like, if you're contracting with someone to do very specific work, like they need to paint the office, you're probably going to want to just denominate that in a very fixed or try to make an agreement so that they get a fixed rate and they don't run this market risk. But if we're going into some sort of partnership with someone and we're partnered with Voltoro, and Voltoro is now going to integrate Dash, it could easily be understood that Voltoro is also bringing a lot of value into the relationship, and that it's likely that as a result of the partnership, our value may go up. So you're probably going to be holding Dash as you join our network, right? So
Yeah.
it's really more on a case by case basis, but it's a very very interesting subject, and it can get really complex.
Tatiana? Oh, you're on mute.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know. What else could we talk about? I'm getting a little dashed out. What's going on with Dash in the future? Because you guys just did a bunch of events, and I don't know. What's next on the roster?
Well, we're going to be at the Satoshi Roundtable pretty soon, late February. We're hoping that it will be a good opportunity for us to raise awareness about our project and what we're doing. And there's going to be a lot of interesting, influential people within the cryptocurrency space participating. So we feel that's going to be like a great opportunity to raise awareness. And right now we're continued development, and we're working on our next version, the 12.1 version, that's going to include different enhancements to existing features, which is basically improving our instant transaction technology, improving our privacy technology, so on and so forth. But it's a long-term process. In the end, the important thing is that I believe we're setting the right foundation as to how a cryptocurrency should be designed. It needs to be, in our opinion, self-governed, self-funding, so that it can remain independent and true to the needs of the users of the network without external influence, right? Because if you don't have some sort of self-funding mechanism, you're going to have to leave either from investment money or from donations. And both methods seem like, they have not worked well. We're looking at what's happening, what has happened in the market, and trying to come up with creative ways of doing it differently.
Is Dash a proof of stake coin or a proof of work?
It is a proof of work coin.
Okay, and does are we what how many coins are there, and what sort of, is it the same structure with fees? The dream of Satoshi was that eventually the mining rewards get smaller and smaller, but by the time that happens, let's say 20 years, there'll be so many transactions per block that the fees, these tiny little amounts of fees that everyone's paying, pays enough to overtake the block reward to then pay miners from fees and transaction fees. Are you guys changing that that vision a little bit, or as well, or are you sticking with that?
For now, I think we're sticking with that. Right now, there's about 6 million Dash in the market, and depending on difficulty, because our block rewards go up and down with difficulty, but we should have in total about maybe 18 million Dash when it's all said and done over a period of I don't know, I would guess like 150 years or something like that. So it's fairly similar to Bitcoin in that sense.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. Well, and how can people get into it? Where do you start? Because Bitcoin, you sort of go to bitcoin.org or bitcoin.com, and you can see these different wallets and different things you can use.
Also, if you want to be a miner, do you have to use like an ASIC, or can you just do it on your regular computer? Can anybody do it, or do you have to have special equipment?
Anybody can do it. I mean, we use an algorithm called X11 that actually Evan introduced to the industry, and that means that there's no ASICs for it currently. So people do GPU mining. But you know, miners have gotten fairly professional at what they do. So even though it's GPU mining, I would say hobby mining, you could still do it, and certainly it would generate more revenue than with Bitcoin. But definitely organized mining operations dominate the industry in general. But definitely it's GPU mining for Dash at the moment.
And
So
then
that was,
people
oh,
go to
sorry.
the Dash site in order to find out everything that they need. Like, is it hard to set it up?
No, there's a great wiki that we have. You just go to dash.org, and there's a getting started section with a lot of information on the project, and then there is some links to important resources, and there you're going to find our wiki, and then in the wiki there's guides to do almost everything, you know, how to mine, how to set it up, what to do. But definitely people still mine just with normal GPUs, graphic cards.
Cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, so X11 was sort of designed as a way to stop um, ASICs. ASICs, for the folks at home that don't know, are chips that are designed specifically for one task. So, so you get a chipset that's designed to, you know, basically do ASICs, which is the hashing algorithm of Bitcoin, and that's all it does, and it does it really well because that's all it does. And I think X11, correct me if I'm wrong here, Daniel, but basically switches to different algorithms all the time and makes it sort of random, and so the chip can't be purely designed for one thing, because what's needed to mine is all these different types of algorithms. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, more or less. It's true that the reason why Dash what was introduced with a different algorithm than Script and SHA, which is what was available at the time, is because we wanted to go through a natural organic growth cycle, just like Bitcoin, so that people could go from CPUs, GPUs, and then we're still in the GPU phase. You know, we're 2 years into the project. We're still in the EPU phase, and that this allows for, you know, the network to grow in a more organic way, just like Bitcoin did. Uh, Eventually, ASICs may be created for X11. We've heard there's people that have done experiments with FPGAs and things like that. Um, but I think the important thing is that networks are living organisms. So you know, when they're in this gestation period, there's certain things you need for them to grow. And I think it's very important at earlier stages of a cryptocurrency that you wouldn't have like a really big miner come and basically take over the network very easily. So by using a different technology, we're giving our network space and room to naturally grow and distribute. So that we're not necessarily going to make a lot of effort, like to avoid people from eventually building an X11 ASIC if they can do it. But I think there's just not a business case for it until our network gets a lot larger, which is exactly what we were going for. Like, you know, get there when we're ready and not too early.
How do you tell if the network's getting larger?
I guess you would tell by the number of participants in the network, the number of nodes you see, the number of transactions. I guess there's just the awareness in general with people. I think there's indirect ways you could determine that. I'm not a coder. I'm not the developer guy, but I'm pretty sure you can monitor different different
Do you guys
aspects of
do you
it.
guys have a map of merchants that might take it and stuff like that? Bitcoin has I've forgotten the URL, but I'm sure if you Google it, you type in map, Bitcoin map or something like that, and all over the world there's amazing amounts of stores now, which is fantastic.
Right.
Um, yeah, and the other question was, and I don't want to, be typical journalist type of question, which is kind of annoying, but uh, is Dash being used a lot more in these dark markets now that,
Um,
because it has these securities built in or not?
well, not really. I think about the dark market question is um, it's a misconception. I think what the dark markets really need is liquidity, and they're maybe really used to do things with Bitcoin. We don't really keep track, so I'm not sure. But my guess would be it's probably not too present at the moment. Not that it couldn't be at a later stage of the life of the network, but I wouldn't think that that's something that's happening in a big way at the moment. And about merchants, yes, I mean, we have a list of different merchants that accept Dash. I'm actually not sure if we're keeping that on the website. I'm sure we have it on the forum, but I'll ask and make sure we have something there on
How do you get
dash.org.
people to accept it? I mean, it's hard enough to get people to accept Bitcoin. Is that because of Shapeshift or something?
Well, not really. It's just because at this point in time, people identify our priorities or the long-term objective of the project and how we're going about it. And if they identify with it and they want to support it, they start accepting it. They see it has potential, so they want to kind of get early into the network and participate. So it's just kind of like network effects and organic growth. Like you could decide you want to accept it for the Tatiana show or whatever, just because you want to support it, and then someone else does, and then the network effects continue to grow and distribute the currency.
Okay. All that sounds really impressive. I wonder, what people are going to have to say. At Let's Talk Bitcoin, we have, like comments and stuff, and at liberty.me, we also have a section for comments. And this will be posted on my SoundCloud. We also usually, for the LTB audience, have a magic word, or it's like a magic phrase. It can't just be like dash, because that's just silly. Do you have a magic word or phrase that you want to suggest, Daniel?
Well, maybe just digital cash, which is, what we're trying to create. I think that could work.
Okay, that's it. Then we'll do digital cash. Josh, do you approve of this message? I feel like we're
Digital
walking the
cash.
fine
It's
line.
sneaking it past
Totally
me.
sneaky. That's what I
Sneak
thought.
it,
But
but bring it on. Why not?
yeah, okay, I like it.
Why not?
Digital
Digital
cash. All right,
cash.
guys, that's the secret word.
Yeah.
So Daniel, where can people find out one more time? Give me some links because we're coming up on the hour, and we'll be back next week. But
Yeah,
fill
definitely.
people
Just
in.
just visit dash.org, and I think from there you'll find all the information about the project and then other links to other resources that you may be interested in.
Very cool. And Josh, what's going on with you? Where can people find you? Sign up for Voltoro. You guys just launched this really cool referral program.
Yeah.
Um,
Super excited about the referral program. It's great. People can refer their friends and then earn a percentage of the trading fees. So, trying to get other people to join the success and get away from fiat trading. Get back to proper real asset trading, which is important because I got into Bitcoin. We all got into Bitcoin and Dash and stuff like that to get away from fiat and these money printers and this ridiculous centralized debt controlled based financial system. So trading back and forth into gold or into a hard asset is a really important part of this whole ecosystem. So jump on that referral program. And what about you, Tatiana? Where's this Tatiana coin? How's that coming along?
Oh, I have so many secrets. I can't tell you guys the secrets, but things are moving along really, really well. So that's always really good.
I'm super excited
Um,
about it.
Thank you. So yeah, I think people should get their Tatiana coins now while they can because it's going to be.
Where
I'm
from?
really looking forward to it.
Where do
It's
they
on
go?
my site. You just have to make sure that your wallet is a counterparty wallet, like that can accept counterparty tokens. So Tokenly has a little Chrome extension that I like to use. It's really easy. You know, you just need your 4-digit password every time, and it kind of does a lot of things for you. You can also buy coins from there, buy Bitcoin, you know, like the same way that you would buy them from Coinbase. You have to give up some information, but Tokenly has allowed you to purchase coins as well. So people can get into Bitcoin that way, and then they can get into Tatiana Coin. But it will be much easier in the future. So I'm really excited about all the different projects. And Crypto Media Hub, we're doing all sorts of good stuff out there. So if people need any help with marketing, PR, ads for Bitcoin, I'm always around to help. And you know, we're growing our team as well, so that's kind of cool. Anyway, people go to TatianaMoroz.com, CryptoMediaHub.com, Volturo.com, Dash.org, meet up with all your cool friends. Liberty.me is an amazing platform if you're an LTB listener and you like libertarian-ish kind of essays and you want to build into that community, and vice versa.
Great
Liberty.me
community.
people, go to Let's Talk Bitcoin if you want to find out more about Bitcoin stuff, if you're just a person that's looking for alternative solutions to the current paradigm. Thank you, everyone. We'll be here next week, and I think we're going to be adding some new shows. So hope to see you guys and have a good week. Peace out.